Australian concert pianist and esteemed teacher Ruth Nye has performed extensively. Her students have won both national and international competitions, and she studied with Maestro Claudio Arrau, with whom she became a close personal friend. So I'm really excited that she's joining me here today at Jaques Samuel Pianos in London for a classical conversation. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to be here chatting to you.
Thank you, Melanie.
I'm going to start by asking you all about your musical education, how old you were when you started, what was the catalyst, whether you come from a musical family?
Well, I started to play when I was 5. Basically, I suppose, because I had an older brother who was already playing the piano. And like all young sisters, you always want to do what your older brother's doing. So my father said, well, I think we ought to get her taught properly instead of letting her fiddle about by herself. And my father was probably the big driving influence, and he drove with a pretty strong hand in a sweet glove in a way. But he came from what you'd call one of those intensively amateur musical families. Music was a great thing in the whole family's life. You know, that he played the violin, he sang, he and his sister won a lot of Eisteddfods and things like this, singing as amateurs, you know, it was extraordinary. And he also conducted, but wasn't brought up theoretically well about music. He just had music in his veins somehow, you know. And I think when he realised he had a couple of children that, you know, really were talented, he was delighted. Mm. And so he kept this pressure. We had to do our practice, there was no slipping out of it, you know. I probably got away with a lot more than my brother did. I can remember for some time I'd be able to read a book while I was practicing with scales, you know, have the book up on.
I've heard that many times before, actually. People just playing their scales.
Don't tell the students.
No.
But I'd be at a certain place in the book that I didn't want to let it down, so as long as the piano was going, I felt I was safe. Anyway, but it was a very good background to have come from, and started with a wonderful, this was in Brisbane in Australia, which was not a very big city, it is the capital of Queensland. It didn't have a conservatoire, but we did have this wonderful teacher. I mean, she was meticulous, not with some sense of humour, but she was determined that she would teach us as well as she could and do everything. And she not only taught us to play the piano, she did teach us all the theoretical background.
Which is so important.
So important, you know. It's, there's no point, you know, if you say to students sometimes, we'll go back to the F minor modulation, and they look at you. You have to know these things, you know, obviously, otherwise it's like a ship that's completely got no rudder, you know. It's just, so she was great, and my brother and I were brought up to play a lot of duets, a lot of piano music, and she did it all, and we won a lot of competitions, of course, but and that went on for quite a while until my father was advised, I think my brother would have been probably 15, 16, that he should be sent to Melbourne, where there was a very strong musical conservatorium, and the whole ethic was right there, and a wonderful teacher as well, called Nancy Biggins. And then we didn't play any work together until we were both in our 30s, when we actually did perform the Mozart 2 Piano Concerto. And after it was over, my brother Ronald said to me, you know, the first performance of that was given by Wolfgang and Nano, and I wonder how many other brothers and sisters have played it.
Yes,
you know, combinations of played
yeah.
brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Since that, so, but we didn't research it, I'm afraid, so we
didn't. So you didn't know.
Didn't know. So we were very fortunate, and fortunate in many ways in Australia too, because we got a lot of opportunities to perform.
Yes, I can imagine.
Whereas here, you know, with a much bigger population, much more drive in the arts than when we were children. In Australia, it's much stronger now, of course, but we did, because we were good. We got many opportunities, which you can't. I always say that the youngsters nowadays, you know, you can't just sort of say, I'll buy that when you're 20. If you've, if you've had this experience behind you, it's like you're putting something in a safe deposit in a bank. And it's all experience that you cannot buy later on.
So do you feel competitions are very important? That was one of my questions. Do you think they can they establish a career? Even today, because we have so many of them, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We're swamped under.
Well, I don't know, I read there was 350 last year, and that's professional ones, you know. I mean, does it mean anything anymore?
And I don't keep up with them. From that point of view, I'm not a good teacher. You know, I'm not one of these teachers saying, oh, this is coming up, you must go in for it. If they come to me and say, can I do this? Or occasionally I will say, I think you should do it. But I think when we were young, it was a much more gentle atmosphere. It wasn't so cutthroat. I know that when people, perhaps particularly parents, saw our names on the list, they'd say, oh God, you know, this is, because we'd usually win. But it wasn't anything that was, you felt that you were belittling somebody that didn't win. It was much quieter, calmer, everything. Even the big competitions in Australia were gentler somehow, I felt. And I would think throughout the whole world too, because there would have only been a handful of really, really big, like the Geneva one, you know, this sort of thing, till well after the war, Second World War, I would think. And then they sprang up like mushrooms, didn't they? I call them a mixed blessing. I think to get experience doing them is good for the students, as long as they don't fall apart if they get knocked out in the first round.
Yes.
You've got to have the philosophy that if you're knocked out, you're knocked out, and you get on with it. You know. The danger of them, I think there are many dangers. One is that the youngsters carry the same repertoire for too long because they feel they've got a good competition repertoire. And they go from one to the other, playing the same things, because mostly they ask for much the same.
Yes. Yeah.
Sort of works to play repertoire. And so that's one danger. So they're not pushing their horizons with their own repertoire enough, nearly enough. And the other danger is, of course, that if they do win, sometimes they're not equipped to carry off the prize, which is a lot of playing.
Yeah, a lot of concerts, different repertoire.
Different repertoire, and they'll be asked to play a concerto they've never learned in 4 months' time somewhere. And of course with eagerness they say yes. And usually big concertos need more than 4 months to gel.
Yes, that's right.
To mature inside you as a work. So they're the dangers. But if, I mean, they are with us. We can't ignore them.
Yes.
So we have to take the good side, and I hope that we can gentle, as they talk about horses, the student not to get upset if they're knocked out.
Yeah, that's true.
And they often make great friendships because they all meet each other.
Yes, they must know each other very well.
Yes, yeah. So it's I'm quite ambivalent about them.
Which teachers do you think were most influential when you were playing, especially when you were younger?
Well, I only had 3 teachers in my life. I mean, one can learn from going to a performance of somebody's. You know, you hear something, think, wow, you know, that was. You don't necessarily have to have a lesson. I mean, I know John Lill said that the greatest teacher he ever had was Arrau, and he never had a lesson from him in his life. He was a great devotee of Arrau's. But he would go to all his concerts. Yeah. So that is possible, you know. You do learn from performances. But I was lucky that I didn't have that sort of wandering search for a good teacher. They almost arrived in my lap.
Yeah.
So from Edna Hosking in Brisbane then to Lindsay Biggins in Melbourne, they were so different. Lindsay had a huge personality and was really wonderful at getting you prepared for performances. He had this innate sense that he mustn't allow any tension, bad tension to spring, and of course we need some tension. You wouldn't black note if you didn't have some tension. But you've got to know how to get rid of it. So that was good. So nothing ever grew into us that had to be knocked out, you know. And he had a flair with talent, there's no doubt about it, you know, he was great. And then from then, to be offered from Arrau to go to New York to study with him was quite
That's fantastic.
And that was not a, how should I put it, not a sort of volcanic change, but it was just such a widening of my whole piano experience.
It must have had, that was my next question, it must have had a huge impact on your playing. Actually.
Yes.
And your career.
Yes, it did. He did say to me, when he first played to him, when I was about 20, I think, he said, who taught you to play like that? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you know, everything is organic. And so I obviously was quite natural doing it. So, of course he was delighted with that, so it was great. Because he was unique. You know, he was sent by the Chilean government, the family was sent he was the age of 5 or 6 he would have been, I think, because he was giving concerts at 5. And the Chilean government didn't know what to do with him. You know, they had this young genius on their hands. And so they paid for the whole family to go to Germany. And thought that was the best scholarship they could offer him. And fortunately, in time, when he was about 9, he found the teacher called Martin Krause, who was one of Liszt's late students. And so this wonderful hereditary line we have is great.
Yes.
It goes through to Liszt, through to Czerny, through to Beethoven, through to Haydn. You know, it's wonderful. That is one's background, but we pride ourselves on it, but we're just lucky that we've come into it. But so Krause was a father figure to Arrau. His father had died when Arrau was 2 years old. But he was pretty tough too. I mean, I think Arrau they rented a house in the same street as Krause lived with his daughter, and Jenny Krause was a piano teacher too, and Arrau used to leave his house and go and stay for the whole day. While Krause was at the Stern Conservatoire teaching, he would practice there in his house, and then he'd come home in the evening and work with him. I think practically every evening. And he was really tough, and he realised that Arrau played he said that Arrau played like Liszt played. He said everything was natural on the keyboard. There was nothing that was restrictive. The sound was fantastic. So he left that alone, but he certainly did insist that all the technical work was done absolutely 110%. You know. So he just realised that this boy knew it all. Now when Krause died, when Arrau was 16, which was a horrible time, because he almost just got out of short pants into long pants, you know, when that child, but being a child prodigy and then suddenly having to be an adult performer. And so it was devastating. He died because of that awful flu epidemic that came after the First World War. He caught the flu and died. And he was advised by so many people to go to study with this one, that one, that one. And he said, no, I don't know where I got it, because he was quite a shy, he always was quite a shy person, where I got the strength to say to all these people, no.
Especially at such a young age.
Yes. And so then he was by himself, and he then thought, why is the sound that I make different from a lot of other pianists? And so our good fortune is that he set mirrors up, it was a little bit like him, all around him, and he just watched what he did with everything, and so he was able to pass it on. Because if he hadn't done that, he wouldn't have been able to. He wouldn't have known what he did, so he wouldn't have been able to teach it.
Gosh.
So that was from our point of view, a wonderful thing, even though it was a pretty devastating couple of years for him. But his repertoire was unbelievable. I mean, he performed the whole Bach works. I know you've had Angela Hewitt with you, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's performed most of them, if not all of them. But he did a whole cycle in Berlin of all Bach works, and he's done so many of these. He played all the Mozart sonatas. He did these whole chunks of repertoire, huge, and not leaving anything out.
Wow.
That was in his early years, and yes, so this experience, I feel very privileged to be able to pass on to others.
Yes, I can imagine. What are your special memories of him? Do you have any?
Special memories in lessons. Let's do the serious side first. I remember the very first lesson in New York that I had with him. I was doing the Passionata, and I played it the first one through, and he was sitting just over there, upright. He never used another piano when he taught. And I go along with this because you don't want them to copy you.
Yes.
You have to put it into words so they can translate it and then do it. Whereas so many people play it, and the student gets an idea, well, that's what you've got to do, but they don't find for themselves, so you're not really teaching them anything.
Yeah.
And you teach them to be little monkeys to copy. Anyway, I turned around and I saw him, and and he started to speak, and just this gentle, quiet voice. About the whole sonata, and not because I was unhappy, but I was so overwhelmed that my eyes just filled with tears, and they just rolled down my face for probably the whole lesson. And he said, "Oh dear, have I distressed you? I said, "No, I'm happy." So anyway, I had a few tissues, so it was all right. But his teaching was always with words. He had a wonderful gift of, because at one stage he was fluent in 5 languages. I think a couple of them got a bit rusty as he got older, but he could speak because of his life. That's what he could do. But he had this wonderful sense of being able to put across with words what you then had to take in and make your own and bring out yourself. He never said like this and played it.
Yeah.
And that was a rare thing. It's so often you see a teacher just playing,
Yes. Yeah. Sitting at another piano, as you say, you're just mimicking them.
Yeah. That's it. I remember one person when I had this wonderful birthday concert given for me at the Menuhin School last December, and a music friend came up to me afterwards, because a lot of my students came back and played, and the whole concert was made up. And the director of music organised it all. It was all a secret for me. I didn't know what was on the programme until I got there. But somebody came up after the concert and said, the amazing thing is they're all different. And I took that as a great compliment.
Yes.
Yeah, I really did. They all had the same, what I call philosophy of the way to play the piano. But you have to let a person grow themselves musically and not just stamp your image over the same. They've got to find their own way.
Sure. But you're a very celebrated teacher now. You teach at the Yehudi Menuhin School in the Royal College of Music. What is it that you love about teaching so much? Because you've devoted a lot of your time to it.
Yes, I have, the last 20 years really, because I got Dupuytren's contracture on my finger in the early 90s, and that really started to put the end to my playing. I've got arthritis, but anyway, apart from all that, I've been lucky enough to find fulfillment in teaching. Fortunately, with an awful lot of talented people. So I say to my students when they're starting to teach, I said, look, a little youngster coming to you has to have one of 2 qualities. Either they have to be musical or they have to be enchanting. That you can't resist them, you know. So, but and it's true, you know. But what I love about it is you get somebody and there's a musical gift there, there's talent, and that varies. You know, you can find somebody that can reserve the piano as a youngster like that, no problems at all. You find someone that the hand is perhaps not quite the right thing for the piano, and you've got to make it right.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love about it, as much as I think the most, two things that I do, that I am able to do, is to see a human being develop as a person, because we're developing the talent inside them. And if that talent wasn't developed, I don't say they'd be a lesser person, but they'd be a different person. And to see this growing so wonderfully with confidence, and they're prepared to express themselves, you know, that is wonderful. And then of course from the ability to do it, to be able to teach them that as well. So it's very fulfilling. It's wonderful when they find things for themselves too. You know, you say, well, often I'll say that we're playing something. I say, well, why did you want to do an cello under there? It's not marked. Well, I just thought it would be, you know, I just felt, I said, okay, well, it's not convincing. Play it again and convince me. If you convince me, you can do it. But play it again and convince me. So they look, 9 times out of 10, Melanie, they play it again, they turn around to me and say, didn't work, did it? It didn't work. And that's the best way, because they found out for themselves. You know, it's whereas if you just come in and say, don't do it, then they can say, I want to do it, you know.
Yes.
But when they find out themselves, it doesn't work.
Yes. What aspects of piano study are most important when you take a young pianist and you start training them? What do you think's most?
I've just got a new youngster at the Menuhin School, a little boy, and he's incredibly musical. He's 9 years old, I think. And what I've found that his theoretical knowledge is very patchy. Even for a 9-year-old, it's patchy. So, well, he's had 2 weeks of school with me, but already I'm starting to build that foundation, to make sure that there's no holes anywhere. Because there'll come a time that if he doesn't know that F sharp major has 6 sharps.
Oh, yeah.
If he doesn't know the order of sharps and flats, which he didn't, you know. And it might sound trite, but it's important, you know. And all these foundations, these cornerstones that we must make sure are in place, and then you suddenly find that there's a gap, and you've got to fill it in. Making it fun, making it an adventure. And if it's dry and boring, they get bored.
Yeah, sure.
But if you make it an adventure, and then they can see it then and they can apply it to what they're doing. And what key are you playing in? Why have you got to be natural there? You know, what's happened? And make them think.
Yes.
Make them use their brains. So that is very important. The other thing is you'll find a lot of this business, and sometimes that's easy to break, and other times it takes a long time because it's quite ingrained. But you just gently keep pushing it down, because that puts awful tensions all through the whole body. If you've got a restriction anywhere, I feel that you cannot get the sound out of the instrument that you want. Because you're finally, no matter what you're doing, you might as well get a pencil and just go boink. You know, it's you need to know what you want to do with your body to get that particular sound. Because we are playing a machine, really.
Yes.
We're not in. We've got a key. We've got all the mechanics that work inside, But we can make that particular note sound different. One thing I find is that people only think of expression like pianos and fortes or mezzo fortes, these sort of things. They only think of them in decibels. They don't think, what type of mezzo forte am I wanting to produce?
That's true.
And the range of that is huge. But how can we produce it, that range, when you're touching something that works something inside? And it's magic, because if you have the image of sound in your head and you just use your body in the correct way, that sound will come through. If you don't have the image, well, then you're lost. But you've got to have the image of it first, and then it happens. And this is, I think, was why Arrau said to himself, why do I make a different sound? And I think it was not any different sound, but the range of sound, not in decibels, but in that area of that one little stream. If you think of the word, you'll get it. It's like in painting, you know.
Yes, very simple.
You've got a beautiful pink jacket on. Well, you know, there are lots and lots and lots and lots of sorts of different pink jackets, aren't there? But it's still pink jackets.
That's very true.
Yes.
So what does playing the piano and teaching the piano mean to you?
I suppose it means a huge amount. I think I was very lucky when this happened to my finger that I was able to go into teaching, because I think if it had been taken away from me completely, I think you'd be a different person. I don't say you'd be a worse person or a better person, but I think you'd be a different person. I don't think you'd be the same person. I think I'm lucky that the other side of my life is good. I'm very lucky. I've got a wonderful family. And so it's not that I would feel pushed out, because I know I've still got that behind me and a solid thing. And but I think if you take any art you take any art away from a person, you must end up as a different person.
Yes.
And I'm afraid, although I love my garden and I love my gardening, I'm afraid as every year goes past, the ground gets further away all the time. So in as much as I could have spent hours and hours in the garden, I can't now. So I just have to enjoy it a little and often, but not a long time. So, but there are. I don't think I'd be miserable, but I would be bereft. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Melanie.